All right, guys. So let's just jump into my past. My name is Dwayne. I'm the owner, operator, master trainer at Pound Gym, soon to be Beatbox. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about my qualifications and my history to let you know how I got here. So I was born in Washington, D.C. in 1978. I moved to Arizona in 1984. My parents, who are still married to this day, are both in the tech industry. My dad was an engineer for MCI. My mother was an electrical process server developer, whatever, for Honeywell in aerospace. My dad was a two-tour Vietnam vet, former Marine. He did a couple of hard tours in Vietnam, and let's just say that that was a huge personality trait for him. My mother had my sister, who's about 8 years older than I am, and she entered the workforce shortly after. My parents were both ghetto kids who made their way out and decided that my sister and I needed to have a better life, so they moved us to Arizona. My dad got a promotion, and this is where we ended up. My dad built us a brand new home off of the I 17 and Bell Road in North Phoenix. It was a brand new development, brand new area. When I tell you that there was nothing around us at that time, there was really nothing around us. It's really crazy to see now, being 2024, what it looks like. My house was three doors down from my elementary school, which was pretty convenient because I would run home sometime after being bullied during recess or after school. So I started first grade in the mid 80s, being a upper middle class black kid in a brand new neighborhood in Arizona. I was the only black kid in my elementary school up until fifth grade. So I dealt with a lot of bullying, a little bit of racism. There was a lot of name calling. It was a huge adjustment. I take after my dad when it comes to a lot of things. My interest in music, movies, even sports. You know, he was really into tennis. I like tennis. I really didn't like basketball that much, but we used to watch a lot of action movies and karate movies together. My dad was also really into westerns, which I'm not super into, but I do like them. I was an active kid. I did play video games, but I had numerous BMX bikes and skateboards, and I would run around with what little friends I had at that time. So I didn't sit at home and just stuff my face and play video games. I did bowl, but I think karate was my first sport. I did bowling for a couple of summers, but my dad wanted me to learn some discipline. He also wanted me to learn how to defend myself. And he knew how much I loved Shaw Brothers movies and Bruce Lee, so he got me into karate, and it helped me deal with some bullying and some confidence issues. I've never been an aggressive person, and I definitely wasn't an aggressive kid, but I pursued karate pretty extensively, doing katas and doing point karate tournaments until I got a purple belt in Kenpo karate. I'll talk to you more about detail in something and later in that. Until I got to high school, I played football. Now I tried wrestling in junior high and I wasn't really good to it. And being subpar in wrestling in junior high is what eventually led me to jiu-jitsu later in my life. But in high school, I didn't play freshman football. I continued doing karate until the end of my freshman year. I worked out all summer. I ended up on the JV team my sophomore year. I started both ways on JV and then got moved up to varsity my sophomore year, where I was a backup. I started both ways my junior year and my senior year. I got second team and first team picks both years. So that was cool. I got some letters from some really good colleges all over the country: University of Washington, Rutgers, Penn State, University of Miami, Florida State. Where else? Colorado. Yeah, I had letters from everywhere. UCLA, USC. No love from ASU though, so whatever. I had a personal strength and conditioning coach for my entire high school career. My dad hired a coach who was a former bodybuilder who turned triathlete to train me in Olympic weightlifting, strength and conditioning. So I would see him 3 days a week from the end of my freshman year until the year after I graduated high school. And I trained with him. I was a strong kid. I was super fast and super agile. My senior year for football, I ran a 4.7 4.40 at 280 pounds. I was benching in the 300s. I was squatting in the 400s. I was deadlifting in the fives. So I was pretty active as a kid. I was pretty strong. I've always been big. I come from a pretty large family. I have 7-footers on both sides of my families. So got some good genetics going for me. I also danced in high school, so let me not leave that out. Anyways, so after high school graduation, I decided to take a year off and just train and try to find myself, to figure out what I wanted to do. I eventually went down to U of A because my sister went to U of A. Like I said, she's 8 years older than me. She graduated from U of A. Eventually, my niece would graduate from U of A. She's touring the country right now with the Mamma Mia tour. She's a little actress, a bit of a nerd, but it's okay. I still love her. So when I was at U of A, I attempted to walk on, had some great walk on tryouts, found out that I couldn't play because I hadn't been accepted to school yet. So I came back to Phoenix and I went to the Glendale Community College and I played a little football there. Now, that was no big deal. I actually just decided to, go to Glendale, and I went to Paradise Valley Community College for a few classes too. And then I just entered the workforce. So my first job when I was in high school was warehouse music store because I love music. I've always been in love with music. And then I also worked at a 7-Eleven on 32nd Street and Shea, which I think is still there. So during that gap year between my senior year and my freshman year of college, I was introduced to Muay Thai by a buddy of mine named Chris Mack, who introduced me to Shihan Nico Fernandez, who I think is actually in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame, but now he owns Two Knuckle Sports on the west side. I trained with Nico for about 3 months before I took my first fight. And my first fight, coincidentally, was in my old high school gymnasium. And I won that fight, I think via decision, but the highlight of that fight was I kicked my opponent in the head. I hurt my foot because I did not land the kick correctly, but I won the fight, so it doesn't really matter. I had 2 or 3 more fights under Shihan Fernandez, which I won also. And then, like I said, I went down to U of A, decided I was going to try to play football again. That didn't work. So when I came back, Glendale, and then I went to work. When I entered the workforce again, I took jobs like telemarketing, collections. I worked for Don Lepre selling the Making Money package. For those of you who are over the age of 40, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Started working at some nightclubs. Was a DJ, club promoter, personal security, executive security. I still DJ. I DJ in Vegas once a year for a very special event. I did quite a few things, but I got back into martial arts around the age of 26 or 27. I started doing Muay Thai with a guy named Adam Gillespie, who I still am friends with on Instagram, but for some reason don't see very often because he's so busy. But Adam introduced me to a guy named Rick Rufus, who is a living legend when it comes to American kickboxing. And I fought a few times under Rick. Once again, after training with Rick for about 3 months, I took my first fight, and then I went to Vegas for a fight, and I fought at Master Toddy's Academy. Now, I won fight of the night, but I lost that fight. But because it was such a good fight, it got me invited back to train with Master Toddy. So I would go up there like once or twice a month for the next 6 or 7 months and train at his academy. And there were a lot of UFC fighters training there. There were a lot of top Muay Thai fighters there. Mark the Hyena, Chaz, how do you say Chaz's last name? Mulkey? Kevin Ross, and most notably, one of Master Toddy's most famous students was Gina Carano. So if you know who Gina Carano is, you know who she is. I trained with her a couple of times and got to train with her and Kevin. Kevin kicked me in the head a few times. That was awesome. But I moved to Los Angeles in 2007. I didn't have a Muay Thai gym to go to, so I decided to go to Wildcard Boxing Gym. I knew an up-and-coming Mexican fighter from Arizona named Ray Beltran and his trainer, Pepe Riley. So I kind of just jumped ship and started doing boxing. Ray would go on to win quite a few world champion type titles as a lightweight, and he was also known as one of Manny Pacquiao's standard sparring partners for years. So it was great to watch Ray spar Manny. It was great to watch Manny train. It was great to get, tutelage and watch and be a fly on the wall to watch Pepe and Ernie and Freddie Roach train. I got to meet some superstars of boxing, including Sean Porter and Andy Ruiz, who was, a constant in the gym when I was there. I would occasionally see UFC fighters working out at Wildcard, like Anderson Silva. I got to meet Spencer Fisher, George St. Pierre. It was always great to see those guys and watch them train. I was a sponge, man. I just wanted to learn as much about boxing as I could. I'd been training Muay Thai for so long. It was great. Now, in 2009, I started actually training jiu-jitsu because, like I told you, in high school, I sucked at wrestling, so I wanted to try some jiu-jitsu. And I trained with a guy named Todd Nathanson, with him and his two sons, Jared and Ben. Now, Todd is known as the highest ranked black belt under Jean-Jacques Machado. Now, Jean-Jacques Machado is part of the other Gracie family. There's the Gracies and the Machados, the two jiu-jitsu royal families. But Jean-Jacques was the black belt that gave Eddie Bravo his black belt, and Todd was one of his top instructors who struck out and opened his own school. Around 2012, I was also going through a professional shift. I left my job in the adult industry and I started working for Barbara and Lawrence at Tarzana Boxing in Tarzana, California, doing group fitness classes. I was recovering from cancer surgery. I was looking for something different. I needed a new path and I wanted to do something that I actually liked. So I got to learn a lot from Barbara and Lawrence about the boutique boxing space, about sales, about customer service, group fitness classes, started doing some private training. Within a year or so, I was teaching 13 to 15 classes a week there. Like, I've always been a great employee and I continue to show up, even if sometimes I don't show up for myself. So that is a constant thing that I'm always working on. Now, in 2016, Barbara and Lawrence sold the gym and they retired to Costa Rica. And I left the gym shortly after that to kind of set out on my own and do some group fitness classes and private training with the staple of clients that I had there. So I try to travel between Tarzana, Hollywood at Wildcard, and Santa Monica. There was a gym in Santa Monica at the time called Wildcard West. It's now Matchroom Churchill. It's owned by director and actor Peter Berg, and I think Gary Shandling was one of his partners at the time, one of the owners. I got to watch a Floyd Mayweather fight at Gary Shandling's house. That's a whole nother story. Rest in peace, Gary Shandling. But this gym was minutes away from Santa Monica Beach. It was full of Hollywood production people, actors, commentators, newscasters, professional boxers. It was a great little environment. It was actually the birthplace of my vision for my boxing gym. It was amazing to meet a lot of really famous people. I got to hold mitts for Frank Grillo, Liv Shriver, Steve, the owner of Lucky Strike Lucky Strike Bowling. I got to hang out and become friends with Shane Mosley Jr. It was super awesome working out there. Now, my trainer Pepe and my buddy Michael from Global Fitness, we had talked about opening up our own little boxing gym in downtown LA. There was a lot of things going on in 2016, 2017 in downtown. They were doing this whole rebrand of downtown LA, and they were pumping a lot of money in, and we thought there was a great opportunity to open up a gym. But in 2018, I got a call from a buddy of mine in Scottsdale who had a gym who was not doing really well. So I noticed on Instagram he was canceling a lot of classes. He seemed to be having operational trouble. So he asked if I could help out. I had a little time, so I hopped on a bus because I hate flying, and I came to Arizona. And I sat at the gym for a month and I'm like, yo, bro, you need to change this, this, and this. And he was like, listen, I don't have the time. But he offered me 30% of the business if I would get involved. Now, it was an old title boxing gym that the original franchisees sold to some other franchisees. And I guess from what I understand, they just ran everybody away within a couple of months. So the gym was sitting empty when my buddy stepped in and approached the landlords and goes, I'll take over the lease and, run the business, which he didn't do. So between 2018 and 2019, we worked hard to turn the business around. Revenue was up 300%, which sounds like a lot, but basically what that means is we were able to pay all the bills and put a little money away, which was great because at least the rent was being paid, or so I thought. But come to find out, when the pandemic hit in 2020, a lot of businesses shut down, including a lot of gyms. I found out that my old partner, friend wasn't paying the bills, wasn't paying the rent, and the landlords locked up the gym. I was able to swoop in and talk to the landlords with the help of a couple of good angel investors who were clients of mine, who saw the value in the business and what we built. And I secured the gym. I had to extend the lease for a year until 2023. But when the lease was up in March of 23, I wanted to move the gym. I was never a fan of the location and I was not a fan of the gym's name. So I wanted to do a rebrand. I wanted to kind of find a place where I could learn more about the business of running the gym while still maintaining my client base. So I found a space that was about a half a mile away. I moved over there. I did a sublease for this gym, which was a room that was part of a larger gym. And when I talked to the owner of that gym, he told me he had a 10-year lease and that he was only 2.5 years into that lease. He was struggling a little bit, but he was hopeful that the presence of my gym would bring in some new membership and some new energy, and hopefully he would be able to, turn things around. About 2.5 months after I moved in, this guy decided to break his lease and file for bankruptcy. And he really tried to just disappear overnight. Like, I literally walked in one morning and he had been in there all night moving equipment out of his side of the gym. So I met with the landlord and the broker for that space and tried to work something out. And then I also started feverishly looking for other spaces. And in doing that, I met this guy named Vlad over at Hyperfit. He had a great small little gym that had been there for a couple of years. He wasn't going anywhere, and he kind of welcomed me in and said, "Hey, if you need a space to, keep your classes going and keep doing your private training, I'm open to having you guys here while you look for your new space." So I jumped on that opportunity. We moved again. Like, moving twice within 3 months is crazy, but my members are loyal and they stuck it out, and we've been able to maintain. I haven't been trying to grow the gym. I've just been trying to maintain until we find our permanent home. We're very close. We're going to be in the North Scottsdale area. There's not much competition here. I mean, honestly, I don't really have any competition, but it's going to be nice to have our own space, and I'll make that announcement when it's appropriate. But I just kind of wanted to let you guys know who I am, how we got here, a little bit about my history, and I can get into more detail about all of that in other video. But that's really all I wanted to do. So stay tuned, keep checking in with us, check our Instagram. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to DM. I usually try to get back to you as soon as possible. I have a lot of clients. I'm super busy, but on my breaks, I try to check my messages so I can get back to you. I hope you guys have a great day. And if you're in the Scottsdale area and you want to get in some quality boxing, hit us up.